Welcome to Auto Mundial, the weekly car news and review show where this week we take a look at the all-new Cupra Born as it squares up against the Kia Soul. Is it the electric hatchback to go for, or are you better off with an ID3?
We also have the facelifted Porsche Macan GTS and the 2022 Hyundai Santa Cruz, plus a new EV from Mercedes, the EQA. That is all coming up. First though, the latest news.
Tesla has become the first car maker to reach a market value of over $1 trillion. The company, which delivered nearly 250,000 vehicles in the last quarter, is worth more than the next 9 leading car makers combined. Now one of 7 companies in the $1 trillion club, the mark was passed following the news that rental group Hertz had reportedly ordered 100,000 Model 3 sedans. The Model 3 also made headlines as it became the best-selling car in Europe last month, the first EV to do so. It sold over 24,000 units, 6,000 more than the Renault Clio and 3 times more than Volkswagen's ID3. It will certainly be interesting to see how other leading manufacturers respond in the coming years as EV production continues to rise. Certainly, at this stage, it seems Tesla is at the forefront of the electric car market.
When we first saw the Volkswagen ID3 in 2019, we always knew its electric MEB platform would pop up elsewhere in the VW Group lineup. This is the new Cupra Born, the Seat offshoot's first stab at an EV, and we have to say, it looks pretty good. The ID3 underpinnings are clear, but the Cupra design language and bronze badging help to distinguish it from its more conservative German counterpart. With the same platform as a Volkswagen, unsurprisingly, it gets the same powertrains. Entry-level cars get a 45 kWh battery and a 148 brake horsepower electric motor driving the rear wheels. In this guise, it can reach 62 miles per hour from rest in 8.9 seconds and achieve 211 miles on a single charge. Next up is the 58 kilowatt per hour car producing 201 bhp. The range is bumped up to 260 miles, while performance also gets a boost with the 0 to 62 time dropping down to 7.3. There's also an optional e-boost function, which gives you an extra 27 horsepower in short bursts. This system is also available on the top-of-the-range 77 kilowatt-hour car that can travel up to 335 miles on a charge, meaning you no longer have to go for a big, expensive saloon car if you want a long-distance EV. In keeping with Cupra's sporty image, the Born has 50-50 weight distribution to help give it a sporty feel on the road, with the floor-mounted batteries helping to keep the centre of gravity much lower than it would be in a regular petrol-powered hatchback. Inside, the Cupra gets a smarter, arguably more grown-up interior than the ID3's colourful cabin, with a pair of bucket seats up front and more bronze accents. Thanks to the flat floor and lack of engine, there is loads of cabin space. There are cubby holes and storage bins all over the place, while the legroom in the back is more similar to that of a limo than a hatchback. This is a growing sector of the market though, with lots of interesting alternatives, not least this, the Kia Soul EV.
The head-turning little Kia gets a 64 kilowatt battery, good for 280 miles of range. Performance is decent too, thanks to a 201 brake horsepower motor. It's quick to charge too, with a 100 kilowatt charger getting it to 80% from empty in under an hour. The Soul has always been Kia's quirkiest offering, and the new version is no different with its new long and thin headlight design, but it still retains its boxy look. Also new is the boomerang-shaped rear lights, which along with a black painted strip surround the rear window. We think it looks quite good. Inside, the Soul is very spacious, which is unsurprising given its cuboid shape, but the boot is a little bit of a letdown. With just over 300 litres of space, it has a smaller compartment than a Polo.
Overall though, we think Cupra is onto a winner. It's better looking than the ID3 and just as practical. Prices are yet to be confirmed, but we suspect it may be more than the equivalent Volkswagen.
This is the new Mercedes EQA. It's the latest addition to the brand's all-electric range, following the release of the larger EQC in 2019 and the EQB, EQV and EQS this year. It is essentially a polar bear-friendly version of the GLA, which itself is a jacked-up version of the A-Class. As such, the EQA borrows many of the styling cues from its combustion engine siblings. Inside, it features with the same 10.25-inch infotainment screen, an identical layout on the center console, and plenty of leather and aluminium, reminding you that this is a Mercedes. The most telling signs that this is a battery-powered vehicle are the blanked-off grille, full-width light bars front and rear, and the rear number plate below the tailgate. At the bottom of the EQA ladder is Sport trim, which includes a reversing camera, heated seats and 18-inch alloys. Above that is the AMG line spec, which adds a sports steering wheel, sports kit and styling kit. At the top of the EQA ladder are the Premium and Premium Plus packages, with bigger wheels, panoramic glass sunroof, upgraded audio and wireless smartphone charging function. There are 3 different power outputs on offer, starting with the EQA 250, which produces 187 brake horsepower. Buyers can then upgrade to the all-wheel drive EQA 300 and EQA 350 models for up to 288 brake horsepower.
However, with prices starting at nearly 45 grand, the EQA is nearly £4,000 more than the top-of-the-range Volkswagen ID.4 and nearly 5 more than the Mustang Mach-E. At this point, the Mercedes appears a little overpriced. So for that extra cash, you'd expect the Mercedes to be faster, have a longer range and a quicker charging time, right? Well, unfortunately, no. In fact, the VW and Ford have the Mercedes top-trumped in almost every category. The range-topping Mach-E, the GT, comes with nearly 200 horsepower more than the equivalent EQA and has a maximum range of 310 miles. The Mach-E also benefits from the option of a larger 91 kilowatt per hour battery and up to 150 kilowatt charging power. While on the face of it, it seems like a pretty regular crossover, the Mach-E gets a sleek low roofline though, and those evocative 3-bar tail lights. Step inside and the cabin is a long way from anything we've seen from Ford before. As is the trend at the moment, there's a horizontal theme to the dashboard architecture with flat surfaces and a full-width air vent. The most striking feature, though, is the immense 15.5-inch central touchscreen, which dominates the interior. As for the Volkswagen, there is a new four-wheel drive ID.4 GTX now available, which is similarly superior to the EQA with its range of 300 miles and 6 seconds 0 to 60 time. On the styling front, the ID.4 continues VW's new ID series design language, with a striking full-width LED light bar at the front and a large windscreen similar to its siblings. While we must admit that we're not huge fans of the colour on this particular honey yellow example, it is a good-looking car on the outside and in the cabin, where you're greeted by a smart, modern interior. So, which is the small electric SUV we would go for? Well, for bang for your buck, you can't beat the VW or Ford. We can't truly recommend the Mercedes, but if the three-pointed star is what you're after, it is the best electric SUV that the brand has on offer.
After the break, Porsche's new hot Macan.
Coming up, the new Macan GTS. But first,
over in the States, Korean brand Hyundai has a handful of models we don't get on this side of the Atlantic. For the most part, they're either a bit too big or we get a more European alternative. But now Hyundai has a new model for North America, and we think it would do really rather well on this side of the pond. This is it, the new 2022 Santa Cruz, a small pickup truck that looks to be a breath of fresh air in a fairly stale sector of the market. Smaller than the traditional full-size American trucks from Ford and Chevrolet, the Santa Cruz is a more compact rival to the likes of the Honda Ridgeline and Ford Maverick. And when we say compact, we mean compact. It's a full 10 inches shorter than a Nissan Frontier and 17 inches shorter than a Toyota Tacoma. So it seems then that the Santa Cruz is forming its own mini truck niche in the market. It's more of an SUV with a truck bed, and as such doesn't use the traditional body-on-frame construction. It's a unibody with 4 doors and styling borrowed from other models in Hyundai's lineup. The striking front end with that geometric grille similar to the new Tucson's is a world away from any other truck on the market. In fact, from any angle, the Santa Cruz is unique, and we must say we like it. The crew cab design means it gets 4 doors with seating for 5, although the rear bench is not exactly roomy. It can fold away though, leaving you with some extra storage space. Up front, it becomes clear that Hyundai is targeting more than just commercial customers. The design looks more like that of a car than a truck, with a stylish dashboard, premium-looking steering wheel, and plenty of tech on show. Infotainment comes courtesy of either an 8-inch or optional 10-inch touchscreen. There aren't any physical controls, but it gets wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto along with a wireless phone charger. There's also a very smart digital instrument panel that really adds to the premium look and feel of the cabin. There are 2 powertrain options for the Santa Cruz, both meaty 2.5-litre 4-cylinders. The first produces 190 horsepower with the upgraded turbocharged 2.5, putting out 275. Both are hooked up to 8-speed automatic transmissions, with the higher spec model getting a dual clutch. Both versions get all-wheel drive and locking differentials, meaning that it should hold its own over rough terrain.
However, if you want a smallish pickup that can handle itself off-road, the Jeep Gladiator does take some beating. With its excellent ground clearance, low approach angles, locking differentials and low-range gearbox on high-spec Rubicon models, it's virtually unstoppable off-road. It doesn't have all of the advanced off-road tech that you can get on modern Land Rovers, but the Jeep proves that you just don't need it if you've got plenty of grunt. On the road, it's fair to say that the Jeep is less impressive. While the big balloon tyres do make it really comfortable, show the Jeep a corner and things start to come undone. So, what about the Honda Ridgeline? Like the Hyundai, it uses a modern unibody construction to improve its on-road dynamics. It may not be as stylish or as luxurious as the Hyundai or even the Jeep, but its big V6 provides plenty of grunt, and its roomy cabin and pick bed make it a great everyday choice.
For us though, it's the Hyundai that appeals the most. We get the sense that it's targeted more towards outdoorsy types who want the look of a truck and the dynamics of a car more than commercial buyers. And we have to commend Hyundai for that. We just hope they eventually bring it to Europe.
Since the success of the original Porsche Cayenne in the early 2000s, we've been getting used to SUVs blurring the boundaries between utility vehicle and sports car. And while Porsche may have started the trend, countless premium manufacturers are cashing in. But now Porsche is returning fire with this, the Macan GTS. Replacing the turbo as the hottest Macan you can buy, it gets lower suspension and an all-round more aggressive chassis setup, making this the most driver-focused version yet. Fresh from a comprehensive facelift, it comes as standard with Porsche's active suspension management system, which responds to road conditions and sets up the car differently depending on your selected driving mode. If you spec the Sport Chrono Pack, and you should, 0 to 62 miles per hour takes just 4.3, while top speed is 169 miles per hour. Not bad for a 2-ton SUV. Better yet, it'll get from 0 to 100 in under 12 seconds. It still uses the familiar 7-speed PDK gearbox, but this time it's been tuned to deliver faster shifts in Sport Plus mode and smoother ones in normal. These driving modes are selected via a handy switch on the steering wheel, with each option gradually sharpening up the GTS as you work your way up. You may be thinking though, what's the point of lowering an SUV and aiming it at keen drivers? And on the face of it, it does seem a little silly. However, sporty Macans have always felt like chunky hot hatchbacks, thanks to their relatively small size and Porsche's sorcery when it comes to making big 4x4s handle like sports cars. To distinguish the GTS from lesser versions, it gets some bespoke styling details. The front features are characterized by black painted elements, while the red brake calipers complete the sporty look. The interior has also been given some attention. Loads of Alcantara and more black detailing. All these extra bits coupled to the almost obnoxious exhaust make it much more of a head-turner than the more discreet lesser versions.
However, the Macan GTS isn't the only fast SUV in this corner of the market. This is the Audi SQ5 TDI, and it does things a little differently. As the name suggests, it uses a diesel engine rather than a petrol V6, but don't go thinking this is some glammed up canal boat. It can hit 62 from rest in 5.1 seconds, onto its way up to an electronically limited top speed of 155. This surprising turn of speed comes courtesy of a turbocharged 3-litre V6, churning out 342 brake horsepower and a monumental 700 Newton meters of torque. It certainly has the S in SUV covered then, And it gets better. To back up the TDI's more frugal image, it makes use of Audi's 48-volt mild hybrid system, not something you'd usually associate with a fast 4x4. The Q5 is also more practical than the Porsche, and just as well equipped and trimmed. However, the diesel soundtrack is unlikely to win favour with many petrol heads, leaving the sharp, focused Macan as the current class favourite.
It isn't quite the fastest SUV on the market, with options like the Alfa Stelvio Quadrifoglio and Jaguar F-Pace SVR turning things up to 11. But for the money, nothing comes close to the compact Porsche.
Join us again next week on Auto Mundial as we take a look at the new luxury SUV from Jeep, the Grand Wagoneer.